I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody...
No one could have predicted that night would carve a new chapter in the history of entertainment. From behind the stage curtain, the long-awaited figure began to step forward, each movement sending a pounding rhythm through the hearts of fans. Spotlights danced as if they knew the true star had just entered the arena. A brief silence, and then cheers erupted like massive waves. The very first glance he cast toward the audience seemed to make the air vibrate. There was something in his eyes, a mix of charisma and calm, that was impossible to describe in words. His faint smile alone was enough to ignite countless emotions in the hearts of those watching. It was as though he carried a secret only understood by those who loved him. That night, Taehyung didn't just perform, he captivated, bound, and mesmerized in a single breath. His deep voice swept across every corner of the venue, flowing like a whispering wind that caressed the soul. Every verse he sang became a story, and every story felt written just for the people in attendance. No one could look away. His movements on stage were never rushed, yet perfectly calculated. A harmony between elegance and strength, creating a rhythm that enthralled the eyes. Each time he lifted his hand, thousands of cameras clicked in unison. Every time he bowed his head, the hearts of millions trembled. The outfit he wore that night seemed to be part of the grand narrative he was building. A sleek black blazer shimmered subtly under the stage lights, paired with a thin white shirt that created the perfect contrast. A simple accessory around his neck added to the image of an untouchable, mysterious man. It wasn't just his visuals that enchanted, but the aura radiating from him seemed almost hypnotic. There was an invisible force that compelled eyes to keep watching. Fans, from teenagers to adults, were swept away in a moment that felt as if it would never come again. That night, time moved differently. When the song reached its climax, his voice tore through the silence and pierced deep into the heart. His grip tightened around the microphone, eyes closed, his entire being merging with the music. It was as if he was opening the door to his soul, inviting everyone inside. Many in the audience couldn't hold back their tears. Even in the midst of the roaring crowd, he radiated calm. The gentle gaze, the small smile at the corner of his lips, and his steady breath showed how much he savored every second of his performance. Gratitude was etched across his face, as though silently thanking each person present. The most breathtaking moment came when he stopped the music for a moment, looked at the audience, and spoke in a soft but clear voice. Those words weren't just sentences, they were a promise that he would continue to be there and give his best. The cheers that followed were even louder than before. As he sang the final verse, the arena transformed into a sea of lights. Fans raised their light sticks, creating a view like stars scattered across the night sky. Taehyung stood at the center, becoming the heart of that small universe filled with love. Every second felt like a painting unfolding before the eyes. Every note, every smile, every glance was precious. No one wanted the moment to end. But like all beautiful things, the night slowly approached its conclusion. When the music stopped, thunderous applause filled the air. Some shouted his name, while others simply stood still, eyes glistening with emotion. Taehyung bowed deeply, offering respect to those who had given him unconditional love. He stepped back, but still turned to wave one last time. That simple gesture sparked another wave of screams, as if the audience couldn't bear to see him go. That night, each of his steps left a mark that would not easily fade from memory. For many, that performance wasn't just a concert. It was a meeting of souls, a chance to feel close to someone they had only admired from afar. And for Taehyung, it was his way of saying the deepest, thank you. On social media, clips of his performance flooded timelines instantly. Every video snippet, every photo, became the topic of endless conversation. His name topped trending lists in multiple countries within minutes. The world seemed to agree that the night belonged to him. Many were struck not just by his stunning visuals, but by the way he poured emotion into each song. There was a sincerity that couldn't be faked, and it was this that made everyone feel connected to him. Like an old friend returning after a long absence. Although he had performed in front of thousands many times before, this night felt different. There was an intimacy rare for a concert of this scale. Everyone felt seen, as though Taehyung was singing just for them. Music critics didn't hold back their praise either. They called this one of the best performances of his career, a perfect combination of vocals, visuals, and stage presence that was hard to match. For longtime fans, this moment was the peak of a long journey. They had watched him grow, change, and now stand at the height of his glory. For new fans, it was the doorway into a world of charm and warmth. Even those who hadn't followed his career admitted that the night was extraordinary. There was an unexplainable magnetism that kept them watching until the very end. One performance was enough to make them fall in love. Some fans confessed they couldn't sleep afterward, replaying the performance videos over and over. Each time they watched, they felt the same rush of emotion as they had in the arena. An experience that refused to fade. It wasn't uncommon to hear comparisons to legendary performances by global music icons. But Taehyung proved he didn't need to be anyone's version. Being himself was more than enough to captivate the hearts of millions. Many believe this performance will become a new benchmark for Korean artists' concerts, a high standard blending music quality, visual beauty, and emotional depth. Every element worked in harmony to create a perfect night. In a post-concert interview, he admitted he was deeply moved by the audience's response. To him, every cheer was an energy boost that pushed him to give even more. He promised to continue delivering better performances in the future. That gaze, that deep voice, and that captivating smile, all fused into a memory that will live in fans' hearts forever. It's no wonder many refer to that night as Taehyung's night. Now, whenever his name is mentioned, people immediately recall that evening. A performance that stirred the heart, etched into the soul, and will never be forgotten. He is not just an artist, but a phenomenon that will be remembered. And like all beautiful stories, this one will continue to be told, from one fan to another. The night Taehyung made the world stop for a moment, and all eyes were fixed solely on him. The final echoes of his voice lingered in the air long after the last note faded. It was as though the sound had been woven into the very fabric of the arena, refusing to leave. The crowd, still caught in the spell, hesitated before breaking into yet another wave of applause. Some clasped their hands over their mouths, overwhelmed. Others raised their phones high, desperate to preserve the magic they had just witnessed. In that moment, technology seemed fragile. No lens, no recording could truly capture what it felt like to be there, breathing the same air as him. As he stood under the dimming lights, the shadows clung to his silhouette like a cloak. The sharp lines of his jaw, the subtle curve of his lips, and the glimmer in his eyes painted a picture that could break hearts without a single word. He didn't just perform, he lived each second on stage as though it were his last. The audience's chants of his name rolled like thunder across the venue. With every call, he raised his head a little higher, as if each voice was giving him strength. He responded not with grand gestures, but with the quiet power of presence, a slow nod, a steady gaze, a smile that could disarm even the coldest soul. Somewhere in the crowd, a fan whispered to herself, "This is it. This is the moment I'll never forget." Around her, thousands felt the same unspoken truth. They weren't just spectators, they were witnesses to something timeless. The air felt charged, as if holding an invisible electricity. It was more than excitement, it was the collision of admiration, longing, and pure joy. People clutched at their chests, unsure if their hearts could take any more. Then, with a grace that seemed almost unreal, he took a step forward. One hand reached toward the audience, and for a fleeting second, it felt as though the space between them disappeared. Every scream, every tear, every beating heart aligned in that shared connection. The moment broke when he pulled back, but the warmth remained. The crowd erupted again, not out of desperation, but celebration, because they knew they had been part of something irreplaceable. Behind the curtain, he paused before stepping fully backstage. The roar of the audience still echoed through the fabric, seeping into his very skin. He closed his eyes, letting it wash over him, a reminder of why he had chosen this path in the first place. And somewhere, beyond the cameras, beyond the lights, millions of people around the world sat in front of their screens, smiling, crying, holding their breath. They might have been thousands of miles away, but that night, they were all in the same room with him.
Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, I'm losing shit, a stupid